Good evening and welcome to the special committee of the whole meeting, November the 12th, 2025. It is exactly 4:30 and the chair calls this meeting to order. Mayor McKay, could you kindly read the land acknowledgement?
Thank you, Deputy. I would like to acknowledge Wolfville is situated in Mi'kma'ki, the ancestral and the unceded territory of the Mi'kmaq, and as such ask that we conduct our business with the 7 sacred teachings in mind: truth, honesty, love, courage, respect, wisdom, and humility.
Thank you, Mayor McKay. And this, I'm just looking at the CEO, no changes or additions to the agenda. Okay, so the agenda will be approved as circulated. Moving on to declarations of conflict of interest. Is there anyone around the table that wishes to call a conflict? Nope, I don't see any. So move on to public input. Is there anyone? I don't see anyone in the gallery. No one online. So I won't read the long note there. And it's basically, we're talking today about the preliminary capital investment plan, the CIP. It's a discussion. I'm looking over at Director Lake and our CEO Horn to guide us into this process.
Can you hear me now? Is that working now? Great. Thank you very much. So we're going to tag team this presentation tonight. There was supposed to be a third in our small group of presenters tonight, and our Director of Corporate Services, Dana Gibson, sends her regrets. So I will pinch hit for both my part and her part tonight. This is okay? Okay. So welcome. Thank you very much for taking the time for this special committee of the whole meeting. This is the unofficial kickoff of budget deliberations for 2026-27. With capital being such a significant portion of what we do and requiring, generally speaking, more lead time than a lot of our operational measures, we felt it was important to get at least this portion of our capital plan in front of you as early as we could. Before we dive in, Director Lake will point to the entire team who is involved with capital planning a little bit later into the presentation, but I do want to give a special welcome tonight to our new Manager of Environmental Services, Martin Kehoe. Martin's first day with the town was on Monday, and look at him here after hours already on Wednesday night. Yeah. So he's diving in with both feet, just not into that particular pool that's on the screen right now.
You'll be in there.
Yeah. Yeah. So tonight's agenda, we're going to do some introduction, talk about the purpose of our meeting, what our foundations are, like where the plans that we're proposing come from, where we sit today in terms of the implementation of the 2025-26 capital plan and what would potentially be carried over, and what we've learned through the implementation of that plan through discussion around strategic priorities and those other conversations that we've had throughout the year. We're then going to get into a little bit of financial capacity. How does the town generate revenue? What are our capital trends? What are our capital reserves, debt servicing, and how the town generates revenue through our operating budget, how that dovetails into our capital, just so that everyone has a good understanding of how that entire process works. And then we're going to get into preliminary capital investment plans. That's where Director Lake is going to take us through the various projects that are being proposed for the 2026-27 capital year. I'll just draw your attention really quickly. If you notice at the bottom of the slide, we've got lead with care, creativity, and purpose. Honor our past, enrich our present, and shape our resilient future. So I think everyone will be familiar with that. That's our mission. So we've found opportunities throughout our documentation, you'll notice it on your agenda as well, to find small ways to remind ourselves of our mission, of our values, of our priorities in different ways as we're having different discussions through council. So our purpose here tonight is to connect our capital discussion, this discussion, to council strategic priorities. We're going to share information about where we are right now in terms of capital planning and capital implementation. And we're going to share information about our financial, operational, and environmental parameters of capital planning. We don't plan capital in a vacuum. We have constraints, we have parameters, we have, whatever analogy you want to use. There are things that we can do and there are things that we can't do. And there's a whole bunch of stuff in the middle that we have to try to plan around. We're then going to review our proposals for 26, 27. And then through the entire thing, just have open discussion and provide feedback with council. So with that in mind, I think Devin's okay with this as well. But as we're going, if you have questions, just please pose them. We can pause at different places, have those discussions, answer those questions. If it's something that'll be addressed later in the presentation, we'll just let you know. But otherwise, as we're going, just please stop and ask your questions. So our foundation. Now that council has approved its strategic plan for 25 to 29, we'll be drawing as much as we can back to this strategic plan. So in your memo, in your IR, I'm not going to go through it in the presentation, but we have drawn out many alignments between the strategic plan and what we're trying to accomplish in capital planning, whether that be through the lens of fiscal responsibility, environmental, sustainable environment, inclusive community. There are many linkages that have been drawn out. We'll go to the next one. In our operations plan from last year, we have the actual CIP, which is in front of you, as well as I'm going to go through a little update in a moment. But in addition to that, we did have an activity around capital planning, which I've put on the screen. So staff will assess existing plans for infrastructure and facility improvements and consider them against known gaps, anticipated growth, and the town's financial capacity, and bring that information to council to refine the town's capital planning and priorities. So that's part of what this discussion is we have learned a lot through the year. And part of this discussion is to share with you some of our learnings. And then through that discussion, you can share with us as well some of your observations through that process, so we can continue to refine how we plan for capital. Just mentioned the capital investment plan was there. We've also got linkages to our municipal planning strategy and our accessibility plan, which are in your IR, but again, I won't address them tonight unless anybody has any questions. So our current state, no problem. Our current state. So we don't start every year from a blank piece of paper when we're doing our capital planning. This is what the town's built environment. This is a large portion of the town's built environment as it exists today. Almost 50 kilometers of roadway. So to put that in perspective, we just had that number updated a little bit earlier today. We have, before we were working with a number of, I think it was 32 or 34 kilometers of roadway. So that's single direction kilometers. So that you have to double it to get linear kilometers because we service both sides of the road. So if you double that 34 to 68, that is the distance between Wolfville and Middleton. That's how much road the town of Wolfville capitalizes and operates. The distance between Wolfville and Middleton. And we do that with our existing budget and with a crew of 6 people. So to give you a little bit of a sense as to how we operate our existing capital investments. We have 35.5 kilometers of asphalt and concrete sidewalk, 71 acres of recreation space, 55 kilometers of water main pipe. So for a town our size, that's a lot of stuff that we have to operate and maintain. So that is part of our reality all the time. That's part of where we jump into capital planning, is what do we currently have and where are we going from there? We'll go to the next one. So looking at the current year's CIP, 2025-26, we've been able to accomplish a lot. So I'll take a minute and we'll go through this. So we've budgeted for IT network upgrades, which have been completed. We deferred, so we had in our plan to actually receive and pay for a pumper truck for the fire department. That is now not expected until 2027. So that expense will not incur in this fiscal year. It'll be moved to 26, 27. We've also placed an order to replace aerial 41, tower 41. So we are expecting a new aerial truck in 2029. That order has now been placed. We've replaced bunker gear for the fire department, 20 sets, I believe, as well as radios and other equipment. We have done some replacements and some upgrades on our fleet and equipment. New sidewalk tractor, inspection vehicle, micro truck, mower, tire machine, and wheel changer. I was chatting with Pete about the tire machine and wheel changer earlier this week, and just fantastic piece of equipment. A relatively small spend, but made a real difference in what our crew can do. We've completed Kent Avenue sidewalk. We are substantially complete of the Earnscliffe Avenue design work for capital investments potentially next year. We're ongoing with our lift station assessments. The West End Trail is substantially complete. Reservoir Park washrooms and shade is substantially complete. The rec hub enhancements are complete. Waterfront floating dock, it has been purchased, not installed. So that is nearing completion. Won't be deployed at this stage until next year. Our leaf and yard waste site is complete and has been in operation most of the spring, the entire summer, and the fall. And mud dam safety assessment has also been completed. So that's what was on the formal capital plan. In addition to that, we have undertaken many things that would look and feel and sound like capital, but actually come out of our operations budget. So just to talk about those for a minute, we've resurfaced both Grandview Drive and Hillside Avenue. The Al Whittle stormwater and sidewalk improvements have been complete. Every time it rains, I'm over there to make sure. It's fantastic. In addition, it works incredibly well in addition to being a fantastic visual upgrade to a really important part of the town. Asphalt patching throughout town is substantially complete. Is there a little bit more to come though, I believe, Dawson? Next week. Safety Sidewalk Canada. If folks have been walking around town and noticed corners and edges and transitions are shaved. So Safety Sidewalk Canada has done an entire exercise around trip hazard removal. That's been complete on our sidewalks. Catch basins, culverts, and other stormwater improvements have been ongoing. Removal of the water park fence is complete. We've done HVAC improvements to the fire hall, town hall, and public works. The Evangeline Park improvements are done. Millennium Trail improvements are ongoing, and Reservoir Park viewing platform design is complete. I believe it's complete. The design part is complete. So we've been able to rack up some pretty good wins so far this year, but we've also got a lot of work ongoing. So this is continuing with our capital plan. What are we still working on? So the facilities assessment, which was kicked off a number of months ago, is ongoing. We'll have more to say about that in the new calendar year. Waterfront risk mitigation work is ongoing. Our Main Street assessment is ongoing. Stormwater assessment is ongoing. AT network deployment. So we deployed the bollards through the spring and summer this year, which have now been seasonally removed. The Harvest Moon Trail is set to receive its treatment in concrete through the core any day. The equipment is down there right now. They've begun to launch for the transitions at the roadways. Phase 2 of our wastewater treatment plant expansion is well underway. That was the first picture in our presentation, was a picture from probably a month and a half ago, I guess now, of where that stood. So that's ongoing. Old burial ground fence replacement is, I believe, any day. Public art initiatives are ongoing. Microtransit feasibility study, we're expecting that back anytime. Wayfinding installations are ongoing. Improvements to our GIS system and use of asset information is ongoing. And then we've got a couple in here at the bottom that are not really capital, but they have an implication on our planning for capital, which we'll also mention is the Regional Recreation Center. So feasibility and planning for that is still ongoing. And dike improvements with partners, including a dike talk trail, is still ongoing. So in addition to getting lots of stuff done, we still have lots of irons in the fire that are going to continue to roll out over the course of this fiscal year and into next. Maybe I'll stop there. If there's any, you want to go back a slide, Devin, or if there's any questions on any of those projects from the last three slides. So the ones that we've finished, plus the ones that are still ongoing. I'll just pause there for a second if there's any questions.
Councillor Williams?
Yeah, the couple of things. The West End Park improvements, that's at the southern end of Stirling. Is that what you mean there? Or do you mean the
So
ones
the
that
trail
Jeffrey Haggard-
improvements are done. The park improvements, which is at the corner of Hillcrest and Stead,
Right.
that park. So we're anticipating that park work. I know there was a timeline. I just can't remember what it is. Early December now. Yeah.
Okay. What about the trail that was slated to be done during the summer at the southern end of Stirling?
That is the West End Trail and that is complete.
Okay, that's good. The Mud Dam, is that the one on Millennium Trail or is that the one up in the Wolfville Reserve?
That's the one in the Wolfville Reserve.
Okay, so you that's not included in the 71 acres, is it?
Not sure, it might be included.
Okay.
I'll confirm that for you. This one?
Any more questions? I just have a question about the viewing deck up at Reservoir. You've got the design done, and is that something that Bryson works on to, so when can we, I mean, it's not something that would be in our budget, right? That one?
No, it's a contribution from the developer.
Okay.
Yeah.
So do you know when that, have any anticipation?
I don't think we have a date of it. It certainly would be the spring at the earliest at this point.
That would be a nice addition for sure.
Okay, we'll keep going to, so observations and learnings. So through this course this year, both in the implementation of our capital plan, but also through conversations with you folks, conversations in the community, conversations that have resulted in our operations plan, our strategic plan, our accessibility plan. These are some of the observations and learnings that we've taken away. Investment on Main Street is a priority. And I guess I'm going to state these as there are learnings, but if there's any, if you've got a question about them or feel differently or anything of that nature, please interject or ask a question. So first and foremost, investment on Main Street is a priority. Addressing stormwater issues is a priority. Investing in facilities will only proceed once reassessed. So we currently have significant facility investments in the fiscal years 2026, 27, 2027, 28 that occupy a very large portion of our capital budget. Based on the plan that we're proposing moving forward in 26, 27, those investments will not occur until we have fully reassessed our facilities plan and council has made another decision to move forward. We need to develop a cache of shovel-ready projects for investment and grant applications. The cupboard is mostly bare for shovel-ready projects. We have lots of projects, lots of things that we would like to do, But to have them shovel ready, we need the design work done, we need the concepts done, we need everything done so that when a call comes from the province, we can say, we want to move forward with this. Fill out that application, have all of those i's dotted and t's crossed, and hopefully be successful with securing funding. So we need to do some preliminary design work on a few different things. So we have a bit of a cash ready when those calls or when those opportunities come. And given the age and condition of our infrastructure and budget realities, trade-offs are everywhere. This isn't news to you folks. It's part of the business that we're in. We have too much to be able to invest to the levels that we would all ideally want to in when we would want to do it. So this entire exercise is really about those trade-offs. Where are the priorities? What needs to be done now versus what can be left potentially for later or when the opportunity arises? Was there any questions or feedback on that?
Are there any questions? I just have a question about the developing the shovel ready projects. Like how would we do it? How would we get a list on that? Would you be looking to us for some feedback on
So
that?
we're going to talk
Or
about that.
We're gonna, okay.
Yep. So in a nutshell, we have particularly road projects that we are proposing to do the design work basically now. So that when the opportunities come, then council can say, we'll have the conversation with council, say, we would like to, based on this funding program, we would like to make this application with this project.
Might have some already in mind, or like, I mean, I know there's specific things and we're looking on Main Street for that, but do they have to be really specific for grants? I'm just
do.
not sure. Okay,
They have to be quite specific.
okay, that's
Yeah.
all I wanted to
Yeah.
know.
Certain granting programs will only be for, infrastructure associated with the expansion of housing, or infrastructure associated with stormwater, or infrastructure associated with water, or something of that nature. So we have to have kind of a standing list of those kinds of projects in order to apply. Does that list of observations and learning, does that ring true for folks? That's more or less what you're going to see tonight. This is what we're trying to start to address in what you're going to see tonight. So now I'm going to switch over and be Diana. So there's a revenue. This is just a brief introduction. We're going to do more as we get into budget discussions to talk about the specific investments, generating revenue, capital expense pieces of this. But we just want to flash up there for your familiarity, our last 2 years actual results and what we've budgeted this year. More or less, you guys can see again the relationship between what we collect in terms of revenue and what we spend in terms of capital. So the last 2 lines, I'll draw your attention to the last 2 lines in the expense category. That's capital. So our debt, which goes to fund capital, and we have to pay make the payments on it on an annual basis, and our contributions to reserve. So those last 2 lines in the expense category, that's capital. So we generate revenue every year to pay all of our expenses, including those annual payments for capital. So that bottom line, that reserve contribution, if you get a ratio of that to our overall revenue, we're looking at about 10%. Sometimes we're going up as far as 11% a year, contributing into a capital reserve. Contributing to reserve contributions for capital. So about 10%, upwards of 11 in any given year. So our operating funds capital reserves, which provide funding to capital projects. Our operating fund also covers the debt servicing fee of capital borrowing. And that's what you saw on that last slide. Our ability to do maintenance, like surface improvements, to give assets a longer lifestyle and fund those types of projects through capital and fleet and equipment. So right now we're spending about $200,000 a year on asphalt in our operating budget, and about $200,000 a year and concrete. I'm here to respectfully suggest to you that's probably not enough. And we're in need, based on our operations of this town. We're in need of likely more spend on those particular items. And we're in some conversation now as to whether or not that's most appropriately captured in our operating budget, or should it be moved into our capital budget. This is, don't try to cram everything in that's on the slide. It's mostly just to give you an order of magnitude of what we're actually spending on capital on an annual basis. If you want to just continue to this one. So in 2023-24, the town spent under $1 million on capital. In 24-25, we spent just under $4 million on capital. This year, we're slated to spend almost $9.5 million in capital. We won't get all the way to 9.5 for a couple of particular reasons. One, we've got a $1.8 million fire truck in there that is going to be deferred until 27. So that right there is a slightly less of a spend. The biggest push on why we're spending almost 9.5 this year compared to almost 4 last year is the sewer treatment plant. So we're spending $4.7 million on the sewer treatment plant alone. Yep.
Just out of interest's sake. You're mentioning fire trucks.
Yeah.
Fire trucks coming from the States
Yes.
and affected by tariffs, right?
No.
Oh,
So
good.
we are the purchase, the contracts that we made on the fire truck this year was pre-tariff. And there is still some, regardless, it doesn't matter in our circumstance, but there's still some discussion as to whether or not there will be application of tariffs to emergency vehicles like that, because there are so few vendors of emergency vehicles like that. And they're almost all coming out of the States. So there's some further conversation of whether or not tariffs will apply. Regardless of that, our contract is tariff-free. So we can skip ahead to the next one. This is our capital reserve balance. So this is what we have in the bank as of now related to our capital reserves. So our capital reserves are divided into multiple different accounts. Some are more restricted than others. So all of them are listed there. Sustainable Services Growth Fund, our open space and land sales, sewer capital, unrestricted capital. That's just as it says, it's unrestricted. That's our most usable capital fund. Town Clock, Canada Community Building Fund, that used to be called gas tax, just to build some familiarity there. Fire Equipment Reserve, and then library.
Can I ask another question?
Yeah.
Town clock,
Yeah,
what's that?
no clue.
So-
I honestly don't know. That's
Does
a
it
question
need-
we'll have. to
I
come
remember
to.
discussion before that it needed maintenance perhaps, and where would you go for that? And so I wondered if that's what that amount.
That's my understanding.
Yeah.
You mean the clock in Clock Park?
Yeah.
What, can you flip back one more again?
Yep.
What is the open space land sales? Do we sell a piece of land?
When there's subdivision that takes place, we have a policy, basically take a 10% contribution. So that's
Yeah, okay.
for almost any subdivision, we
Right.
take, it's, a small fee, but it adds up.
Yeah, just make sure. Okay.
And while I don't know if it's that same account or not, anytime the town sells a piece of land, by law, that the proceeds of that sale need to go into a restricted account for capital.
Councillor Williams?
Yeah, can we go to the preceding page? The nature preserve dam upgrades. So you've got a report for that dam assessment, presumably, if you're looking at an upgrade.
So what we've done, there's been a lot of work done on that project. It could almost be its own meeting. But what we've done with Miko, who's an engineering consultant specializing in dams, is we've really done a safety assessment this year, and we're looking to work with them, potentially the university, maybe some other partners on what is the path forward, given if you're familiar with their capital budget, we had a placeholder item of I believe $4 million to do some work up there.
Okay.
But we're kind of assessing what that is and whether maintaining those dams is the most appropriate path forward.
Right.
So we're looking at options, and we're bringing those back to council.
Yes.
Mayor McKim?
Because if I remember correctly, and I may not, but that the dam has been on there for, I think, all of my time here, probably before that. And I thought, Wendy, maybe you remember, our first term, we thought it was imminently needed to be replaced. And then we get reports that it isn't, and it, so it's safe the way it is. It's now we're just figuring out a path forward.
Yeah, we've just had it assessed this summer, and our crew actually did some work up there. Clearing out the spillway is one exercise that we took on. And in the short term, we have, in writing from our consultant that it's fine. But looking out in the medium term, we really need to make a decision. Yeah.
Thank you.
Oh, sorry, we can keep going if there's no other questions. This one? Yep. So I'll just touch on debt affordability for a moment here. So I've got a little bit more detail in your information report. As it stands right now, the town's debt affordability is considered low risk based on where it is in comparison to other towns, but also in some objective measures stated by the province. Based on the existing capital investment plans we project out with some of those facility investments and whatnot, you can see that our debt based on how we're proposing to fund those projects, which is an increasing proportion of debt, our debt affordability is projected to be inching up, upwards of almost 13% when you get a couple of years out. Kind of the ceiling of any kind of reasonable, healthy debt affordability is 15%. So you can see that we are projecting, based on the spends that we're planning, to increase our debt affordability ratio over time. Part of what we'll be having conversations about with council, this is one, but there's going to be many more as we get into different projects. There are 3 ways to adjust that debt ratio. You change the funding source. So you apply for grants or utilize more reserves. You can increase contribution to reserves by increasing revenue, by increasing what we take in. Or you can push projects out so we're completing less or spending less in any given year. So it's a factor of time. We're just going to push things a little bit further so our spend is lower in any given year.
Mayor McKim?
Not necessarily a question, but this is only one of our indicators. So
This is only one of our indicators.
yeah, so
Yeah.
I appreciate that, but I like to look at them all as
Yeah.
in one, because one doesn't indicate our financial health.
That's exactly right. Yeah. And so in your package, we've referred to, I think, 2 or 3, our contributions to reserve, or sorry, our combined reserve is in there. In absolute terms, Wolfville is in good financial shape. But what we also have to do is, as we're planning forward, we also have to look at what the effects of those decisions, the anticipated effects of those decisions will be on the finances of the town as we move forward. So just really quickly, a little bit about how the town generates revenue. So in 25-26, over 70% of the town's revenue was generated from property. That is either taxes on property, fees on property, or levies on property, like sewer, fire levy, things of that nature. You flip to the next slide really quickly, Devin, and we'll come back. This is the mix of property in Wolfville. So we've got 45% of our property is residential, 11% is parks, open space, and active transportation, and, well, all transportation, I should say. 2% institutional, 6% commercial, 30% agricultural, 6% is the university, and 0.4% is mixed use. If you add all that together, it's 100.4%. So there's a little bit of rounding in there, but you get the gist. We'll go back. So Wolfville itself, the town itself, is 6.5 square kilometers in area. 6% of our land mass is owned by Acadia. So therefore we don't tax it per se. We get a grant in lieu for that area, which is about $1.2 million a year. 30% of that land mass is agricultural. Again, we don't tax it. We get a farm grant, which is a grand total of about $1,200 in terms of revenue generation for the town on an annual basis. 13% is parks, green space, transportation, institutional. So you know, it's either a park we visit, it's a road we're driving on, it's a building we go into and don't tax because it's a government-owned building, a part of our utilities, something of that nature. So it doesn't generate revenue. So you add all that up, that's about 50% of our entire land mass that does not generate taxation. It doesn't generate any form of revenue for the town. So 6.5 kilometers times 50% of land mass leaves us 3.25 square kilometers to generate 75% of all of our revenue to spend on operations, capital, all that kind of stuff. I want to skip ahead to the next two. So this is a map. In blue, that's what we can tax. That's what we can generate a revenue from. Everything else, white, gray, other shades, we can't tax that. Again, the only caveat there is Acadia's grant in lieu is $1.2 million. So that is nowhere close to the actual like tax value of that, but it's not, I don't want to perpetuate a stereotype that Acadia doesn't contribute. They do. It's different. It's not influenced by our tax rate.
Are there any questions before I move on? Because I just have a quick one. So how much would that go up proportionately, the 1.25? I know when I first started, it was like around $1 million. For how is that assessed every year, like to go up? Like we're pretty much just gonna be up
The
that
growth is very
small.
very small. I can't speak intelligently as to exactly how it goes up. We essentially get a notice from the province saying it's changed by this.
But it usually goes up like a small amount. It
Yeah,
won't go down.
a very small amount, yeah.
And is there any, just remind me, is there any tax in lieu for the post office and liquor store? Are they in?
There's a small tax in lieu for the post office, for the liquor store, for the Bell's property
Bell
as well.
property, okay.
There
But it's
are-
not
there-
significant?
We'll get you the exact numbers so you can see them, but it's nothing like Acadia's $1.2 million.
Okay, thank
Yeah,
you.
we're talking about thousands or tens of thousands versus the grant in lieu from Acadia is kind of completely different altogether.
Good, thank you. Any other questions?
We're just going to give you a couple of other comparisons. Again, the point behind this is to just share the decision-making context around this. So that box is 3.25 square kilometers. So that's the taxable area of the town of Wolfville inside the village of New Minas. That's inside the town of Kemptville. That's Windsor. Just keep going. That's Bridgewater. I think that's our last one. Just a couple of local. So again, this is a slide. We're not going to spend a lot of time on this, but again, this is where the taller the columns, that's where the most tax revenue comes from in terms of what we tax in the town. So what? What do you tell me all of this this stuff for, Glenn? So property tax, yeah. This is again to inform the decision-making process so that folks understand the little bit of a unique context in which Wolfville exists. Property tax is the primary revenue generator for municipalities in Nova Scotia. Finding ways to expand the assessment base beyond existing property helps spread the cost of capital and programs. like most towns, Wolfville has more needs than we can afford. We've already talked about that. We could fill out a capital list for 100 years on the needs of the town. Wolfville has a unique geographic, financial, and spatial context, and that's kind of what that previous slide was really meant to show. It's not easily compared to other municipal units. If you look at that spatial context, when we showed, say, against the town of Kemptville, for instance, as a local partner, that it's easy to be able to look at Kemptville and look at Wolfville and say, oh, well, should you guys be relatively the same? Kemptville, if you just want to flash back, Devin, to the one with Kemptville.
It's just slow going between slides.
This presentation is loaded with pictures, so it's a little slow in the operation.
Here's Bridgewater. It is coming. One more. There it is.
So if you look at, again, if you look at Kentville versus Wolfville, and if you look at it through the lens of the potential generation of revenue through taxation, look at the undeveloped areas of Kentville and how broad that is. Versus we're basically built out to our borders in a lot of instances. So it's a different spatial context that we have to consider when we're looking at revenue generation and then investment. So you're almost done hearing from me, I swear.
It'll go through. Sorry, it's just a little slow.
Any questions on that? Does that make sense?
Any questions on that? Mayor McKay?
I don't know if I have a question. I mean, I think, one, I've never seen it contextualized like that. So that was, I mean, even though you know that, until you see it in a picture, you don't really see it. Yeah, really interesting. And so and then I just looked up what the population of Kemptville is, and it's in 2021 was 6,600. So let's say it's 6,700 or 6,800, and we're what, 52?
Well, I think closer to 55.
Like, it's interesting that the population is not all that much different, yet we're a square box, like a really small square box inside the same geographic area. Like, I think that would be eye-opening. Well, I think it's eye-opening, I think, for myself, seeing it in that context. I think that our residents would be that would be a shocking thing to see. Thanks for the context.
And it's meant to stimulate more discussion.
Yeah.
And it's meant to be kind of that, oh, wow, really?
Yeah.
And it's also meant to show when you folks make decisions, there is a uniqueness that is not just something we're making up. There is a uniqueness to the circumstances of Wolfville compared to some of our neighbors, and that's one of them.
Councilor Williams?
Why is Wolfville so small in land area? Why does that go back into deep history?
Yeah, it does. Yeah, I mean, goes back to incorporation. I don't think the borders of Wolfville have changed in any substantial way since 1893. Maybe a couple of feet here and there, but nothing.
So nobody was looking ahead.
Not more than 100 years. Yeah.
I just have one question, and that is a good, that's an excellent visual. We always compare Wolfville like a little bit to Antigonish because it's a university town. So my question would be, do they have, what would theirs look like? Because do we have more agricultural and we're situated closer to the water? So would that look different if we put it in Antigonish?
We had Antigonish in there, and I took it out at the last minute because there are some dynamics there that we hadn't fully flushed out. They would have similar. I don't want to speak about the numbers, but the grant in lieu for St. FX University versus Acadia University would be similar. I don't know what the landmass is, but they would have less agricultural land inside the town than Wolfville has inside the town. That agricultural piece inside the borders of Wolfville is a real difference maker.
Mr. Williams?
Why is the contribution from the agricultural land so small?
It's provincial policies set, eons ago, and it's a grant provided by the province in lieu of taxation for for actively used agricultural land.
Hmm.
Can I just add
Yeah.
something about the borders? So we are in the best agricultural land in this part of the country. And I think a lot of the debate, because I have been in meetings and discussions about the boundary over 10 years. But because we have Grand Pre and Greenwich on either side of us and we border straight up on agricultural land, there has been a real hesitance to add more inevitably, like, realistically residential land. So that's been a big tension, like going back to the 70s when we had our first land use bylaw.
So is that it for me? Oh, we're gonna talk, oh, no. Yeah.
Go forward.
Oh, yeah. Really, really quickly, just not letting you go on this stuff. So again, we talked about this a couple of weeks ago around the environment that we work in, brittle, anxious, nonlinear, incomprehensible. We're not going to go through everything again. But this is again a commentary around the environment that we have to work in and how it influences our planning. That old expression, the best laid plans of mice and men. So these factors that exist in our environment, they are present in our planning and our decision making. That's all that I want to say about this. It's we make plans based on the best information we have at the time, and then life intervenes. And we do what we can when we can. Skip forward one more. And again, this is how we deal when life intervenes, based on this three-legged stool and back into the words of Dolly Parton. We can't control the wind, but we can adjust our sails. The stability we can't find in the world, we have to create within ourselves. And in times of stress, the best thing we can do for each other is to listen with our ears and our hearts. Again, no meeting is complete without a little Mr. Rogers. So again, it's just a commentary on our context. It's a commentary on how we work through the problems that we inevitably come into. And I think now I'm done. Yeah, I'm not. Okay. So again, around expectations management. Nobody in this room will be surprised by what you see in these circles. This is the stereotypical public service, particularly for local government, Venn diagram of the competing forces. We want better services. We want stable taxes. We don't necessarily want change. There's a trade-off. Again, we're talking about trade-offs. There's a trade-off among those three competing interests. We can typically hit two at a time. It is next to impossible to hit three. So it's part of our context of how do we continue to pursue the greatest good for the greatest many. And these are often the trade-offs that we have to look at. So it's an exercise of expectations management. We can't be everything to everybody all the time. That's where all these trade-offs come from. But what we can do is be very deliberate in our decision making. Share the information as best we can, communicate those decisions, which is always our commitment to do. Now I'm done. Unless there's any other questions.
Go ahead, Councillor.
Oh, I was just gonna comment on your Banny diagram, that I think one of the first things I learned was about how to pivot. This was even before it was cool. Cause the project for the new library, new fire station, man, you can have a vision, but you have to pivot. So Just
That's
thought of that.
That's a fantastic example of exactly what we're talking about in this context. Yeah. All right, with that, I will turn it over to Director Lake to talk about now that we've kind of gone from the 30,000 feet, the environmental and some of our parameters. Devin's going to take us into what we're actually looking at doing in 2026-27.
So maybe just to open this up, I just want to say that I'm going to talk through this, but other staff that are here may also add to this. I didn't put all this together by myself, obviously. So I just want to acknowledge some people that are here. So Martin Keogh just started with us on Monday. He's our manager of environmental services. I'll put him on the spot tonight as much as I can. But I'm just kidding. We're actually not talking about water and wastewater tonight. But there's others that are here tonight that have had significant contributions into this. So our manager of operations, Dawson Sheehy, is here. Nick Zamora, manager of community development, is here. Chris Cheeseman is here as our engineering tech. Mark Fredericks is here as well. He's our senior planner. And I'd be remiss if I didn't mention Peter Schofield. He's our mechanic and looks after our fleet. And Dave Taylor is our parks lead. He's contributed to this as well. So we've gone through a lot of change structurally, combining planning and public works. What's on the screen here, I realize there's a lot of words on the screen, but what we're trying to show here is that we really are trying to set up a project delivery team. So a lot of these folks that I just mentioned, they're really focused and I think really hungry on delivering things for the community. And I think we've done a pretty good job this past season, despite in some ways being a bit shorthanded. So for myself at the director level, I'm really looking to do oversight and budgeting and working with council on creating, a pipeline of projects and agreement on what are we focused on and what can I focus the staff on. As I said, Martin is manager of environmental services, focusing on water and wastewater. Dawson is here. He's focused on the asphalt, concrete, civil, public works and parks operations. Mark and Chris, the senior planner and engineering tech, they're working on the planning of street renewal, project management, and delivering a variety of projects. That's both public works and parks. And we obviously work with external consultants. So we have a number of engineers working for us right now. So a lot of more technical expertise is brought in external. And we also bring in other specialized opinions, voices for the benefit of council and the community to make solid decisions. What else do we have here? Other town department officials are involved. Yeah, so I mentioned Nick Zamora is here. He's delivering capital projects this season as well in the parks. Lindsay Slade works as a community planner, has been involved in delivering projects. Barb Shaw, our manager of communications strategic initiatives. And obviously Diana is involved in all of the projects as our director of corporate services. So yeah, we have a small team. We have been working really hard to build a culture of delivery. I think I'm hearing loud and clear that this council in particular really wants to get some stuff done. So we would really like to do that for you. But the last few points are just kind of qualifiers, perhaps. All of the projects, whether it's small or large, are quite involved to actually deliver them. We often say in our office, sometimes the smaller projects are actually much more difficult than the larger ones to complete. As frustrating as that is the reality that we face. The contracting sort of environment or ecosystem is aging. So most people that you see driving heavy equipment, they're probably like my father's age. They're in their 60s and 70s. Glenn mentioned this already. So we really need, and I'm going to go into more detail about this, but we really need to have a pipeline of projects that are ready because there is a lot of external funding and there's a lot of support from municipalities being the boots on the ground, supporting things like housing. And the last point is just, we have a lot of information, but we don't have perfect information. And so I think as I've been here for 10 years, and then the capital budget has changed a number of times. And a lot of it is because we've received new information. The conditions on the ground have changed. Sometimes the political environment changes around a particular project. So tonight I'm going through some areas of capital investment, but I will iterate that a lot of these are interrelated. And so sometimes I'm going to kind of overlap some of them, but we do think of them as separate areas to a certain extent, and I think it's the easiest way to communicate them. So I'll go through them in this order. We are going to touch on a couple of smaller facility-based investments that we'd certainly like some direction on, so we could move some of that forward. And then we'll have another meeting to talk about water, wastewater, and our IT services, and probably another discussion on facilities as we get further into that. So this is what I meant by the interconnection of all of these projects. So Alex D'Souza was the engineer here for a couple of years, and we worked on this sort of quite confusing looking, to be fair, like intersection of the different areas. But I just want to really explain to everyone that the street on the far left, where you see the word street, it's often the intersection of all the services. So we have sewer, water, storm infrastructure within the streets. And so when we completely replace a street, we're usually talking about everything, but often operationally, we're talking about individual components. And that's down to things like decorative streetlights, which I will mention tonight as well. And within those broader categories of sewer, water, and storm and flood control, there's many components. So I won't go through all of those, but this is just kind of a way to show the complexity, but also the overlapping nature of the systems that we're working on. I can take question. I could take a question at any time, but I'll keep going until I see that. So the map that you're looking at shows our stormwater infrastructure. So this is a combination of underground piping and ditches. So we have 43 kilometers of stormwater pipe, 1,000 catch basins, 50 plus culverts, and 4 kilometers of open ditch. And approximately 6 kilometers of this is quite old, so pre-1970. The other really important piece of this, and there's a series of maps that I'm going to show you, is all of this water that flows from the bottom of this slide to the top of this slide towards what's labeled as the Cornwallis River. All of that water that flows through this system is trying to get to the ocean or trying to get to the Minas Basin. And so the tide cycle, when the tide is in, everyone's experienced that sort of anxious few hours when we can't really drain water as well as we would like. The other big piece that in my time here, we've spent a significant amount of effort on this. So we did complete a flood risk study. A lot of the discussion around flood risk has been through our climate plan that we completed in 2020. And we concurrently to that, we did a more detailed flood risk study to come along with that. And that really set us up for probably funding that we'll be applying for in the next few years in the climate adaptation category that is really prevalent right now. The big change to our flood mapping is the commitment from the province and the commitment from council and our community to protect the community from the seaward flooding. So storm surge, increasing tide heights. And so you can see that dark brown line that represents a higher dike height. And the maps we were showing when I first got here, 2014-15, were drastically different than this. It showed the entire downtown underwater in a future flood scenario. So this is a very positive change. This is sort of a first cut of an update. We're refining this, doing quality control on this to bring into our municipal planning strategy an updated flood risk map. And that what that comes along with is development constraints. And so areas, the easiest thing to point to is the marshland or the dike area. We don't permit people to put housing out there. But we also don't permit people to put housing in the bottom of a ravine, for instance. So we regulate development through what's called the development constraints in the land use bylaw. So this is a really busy map that we regulate from, but we can pull all these layers out separately. But the interesting thing to look at here is all of these natural water courses that are running north or from south to north towards the Minas Basin that are that green color. And so we have all these natural water flow areas, water courses, which really dictate a lot of water flow in the town and are a big part of what we talk about when we're working on stormwater management. The other big sort of disclaimer around stormwater is perfection is probably not possible given the level of rain that we've seen in the last couple of years. And just the level of budget, the size of the town, the age of the infrastructure, the financial realities. There's a finite upper limit to what we can do. When we did our flood risk study, the graphic on the left, what that is a guide to homeowners to help them help themselves, essentially. I won't go through it in detail, but there's sort of like 3 categories of improvements that they could do to help deal with issues on their own property. I think we could probably do a better job continuously communicating this. So a number of years have gone by, we've had a big storm event, we've seen a lot more interest in stormwater management through the cycle of the election that you were all elected on. And then the final piece is the reason that we have REMO, the fire, not the reason we have the fire department, but is to deal with these big events. And so sometimes the response is emergency management. I guess the final point on this is, and this, I just want to make sure everyone understands this, that the streets really are set up as pseudo stormwater ponds in many instances. So they're areas that are directing water down towards the Minas Basin in the simplest way that you can think of it. They have pipes underneath. The other conveyance system that we have are those ravines that I was talking about. But the reality is they're all interconnected and they're mixed together. So yeah, I think it's important to remind ourselves of this because certainly some of the discussions I have are around solving the issue versus sort of mitigating and doing the best that we can. We did provide a map within the information report just showing the various projects related to flood control and stormwater management that we're working on currently. So I have them all listed, so I won't show you all the dots. I was more trying to show, and I often try to do this, what the spatial distribution through the town is. And so that there's not all of the projects we're working on aren't just in the downtown or just in the East End. There's wide distribution to stormwater issues that we're working on. So these were all listed in the report. I'm not sure I will read every single one, but maybe I'll just sort of give a high level that there's a number of projects that we're working on concurrently. A lot of these that I'm showing on the screen now are street projects that involve stormwater upgrades. So we're going to be talking in the next section about East Main Street and improving the way that water flows on the street and into our infrastructure and some of the issues that we have there. We're going to be talking about Earnscliffe Avenue tonight and the design work that we've done there and replacing all of the services, but stormwater obviously being a major component of that. Kenny Crescent off Maple Avenue has been under construction. It's just recently kind of, in the simplest terms, like they're turning on their infrastructure, so to speak now, as things get paved and water can be directed when it lands on the road into the system that they've built out. We are looking at, I'm getting ahead of myself on the street section here with this, but it's maybe a good preview. We are looking at Victoria and University. Both of those have really poor surfaces, big issues with the poor surface in moving water how it's supposed to towards the catch basins and the areas that we want the water to go to. And then the last 2 are both projects that anyone that's been on council has talked about Gasbro Avenue. People know about the surface condition, but there's also underground issues there, including stormwater that we would really like to address and move forward, showing the community that we're working on both Gasbro and Maple as a similar situation, as a longer corridor that we want to work on. These are more very specific stormwater projects, so not necessarily related to streets. So and I'm just trying to show you the scope and breadth of issues that we're working on. So we're investigating some bank erosion that's happening along Woodman's Grove and the ravine. we're looking at stormwater issues on Wickwire and Little Road where there's open ditch. And that's a really interesting example to me anyway, of a natural system flowing into pipe, going back into a ditch, and then going back underground into a pipe again. So that's one that we're working with CBCL on a design solution. We're working at Main Street and University. We've engaged Hatch Engineering on looking at the sort of large culverts under that intersection. We're also looking at traffic and ways of improving that intersection from a traffic management perspective. So there might be some synergy there. Along Orchard Avenue, there's stormwater outfall that we've sort of flagged off and are looking at the correct solution. I've said here, we're finalizing the correct solution on that one. We're also working on recurring issues up on Aline. So those are a couple pages of projects, but there's also the issue of all of the water moving from the hill up at the top of town by the Highway 101 and moving down towards the Minas Basin and hitting Main Street, and really that whole lower part of town having to deal with all of this water. Such a big part of that is when we're making significant multi-million-dollar investments, we really want to get it right. So some of this in the background has also been a data collection and modeling project that we're being supported with CBCL on. Chris, our engineering tech's been very involved in the data collection on this. But to really make the model work correctly, we actually need more data collection. We're suggesting, and we will be bringing this into the budget, to have some summer students help us with that so that we can get even more accurate information and be able to work similar to what we've done with our water system to have an accurate model and to be able to run some scenarios on if we change this piece over here, what does that do downstream? And what impacts does that have in other parts of the system that we're running? The other related piece to this is all the work that we've been doing, both with the province and ourselves around the dike topping or raising the elevation of the dikes. So this middle graphic here shows LiDAR imagery. So all of these different colors are different elevations. And this yellow line is the waterfront section that we're responsible for raising the elevation of. And so it's taken us, I feel like we've been working on this for over 2 years. But the design work from the province really had to lead the way on what elevation are they bringing the dikes to so we can match that elevation. So we are really rolling with that now, and we're hoping to bring some work on that to council to show what the options are, to show some preliminary costs of what we can do along our waterfront, but also to show what we can do to really improve the public space and create things like water access, better seating, replace, things like the older gazebo that's down there. So yeah, I think the waterfront's a really exciting opportunity between what we can do from a public space perspective, but also what's inevitably going to be the response to a trail that goes from downtown Wolfville to Port Williams and to North Grand Pre eventually being built. That's the end of that section.
Do we want to stop and ask any questions, or Councillor Elliott?
A few years ago, there was an issue with homeowners in Woodman Grove taking down trees. And you were talking about bank stability there. Is that still an issue?
That hasn't come across my desk since then. That would have been 5+ years,
Yeah.
I think. Yeah.
I just see people posting on Facebook pictures of their beautiful view.
Right.
And does that mean the trees have gone down? I don't know.
Our office hasn't dealt with that since. No.
Mayor McKay?
So all the lists, and maybe, because I see on this chart here, it says stormwater management various $800,000, which is all of those things that you listed, or that was something, well, then it has Earnscliffe rebuild east, and maybe I'm asking too soon. I guess we heard, through our election time that stormwater management and, you know, the damage that stormwater is causing to people's homes has been significant over the last number of years. Not this past summer, but the ones before that. So my question, of course, is we need good data. We need to make sure we're doing the right things and we're not pushing water from one place to the other. So we need to do that. But at what point do we have enough data to do the work and do it instead of saying we're just, because we could probably collect data forever.
Yes, and completely understand. So the projects that we went through, all of that list, we're trying to get those to a point where we can have them costed and designed to actually be built or implemented in 2026. So that whole list, other than the streets, but that list of storm-specific projects, those are what we're proposing to use the $800,000 for. That $800,000 is just a number that I believe our previous engineer put in as a placeholder. So what we're trying to do is sort of verify whether 800 is enough, is 800 too much, but there'll also be part of that budget going towards additional assessments for future pipeline projects, so we can have 2 or 3 years of work ready to go.
So is $800,000 the data collection, or is it the actual capital work? Because $800,000 doesn't seem like a lot of money to do all that work, but maybe I'm wrong.
No, and I won't. It's probably not enough. Just the Main Street issue that we're looking at is significant cost. That number, I wasn't part of developing the 800,000. That's in the existing budget, so we just carried that forward for now. The next version that we bring forward, we hope to have some cost for you on those projects that we outlined.
So specific projects with the data collection and the
100%.
work being done with a dollar amount attached to it, so it can be
Yep.
shovel ready or whatever.
Yeah, we'd be looking to concurrently build projects and develop more projects at the same time.
Yeah, 800,000 was definitely not collection. When we originally started collecting data for that tunnel.
Sorry, the mic, please. Thank you.
With CBCL, we originally had budgeted $30,000. There's 1,500 catch basins and manholes, and you basically have to survey every one and then pop the cover, measure every pipe, the depths of all of that stuff, sizes, condition. So that $30,000 really didn't go very far. So we used up most of it, and then we got to the point where CBCL basically said it's going to cost another $90,000 for us to complete this work. And that's when we kind of went, okay, whoa, stop. There's got to be a better way, which is why Devin is suggesting with the 2 students, there almost certainly is an end to the collection of that data, though. There is a finite amount of structures to collect the data on. So there is an end, and once all that data is collected, then they can use that to create a model in computer software.
Councillor Williams?
Yeah, having watched the flooding of the area now occupied by 292 Main Street during high tide, I'm still concerned about where the water is going to go, having deflected it down Main Street. Where is it going to go then at high tide?
So when I talked about bigger multi-million-dollar potential stormwater investments, the reason that we would like to develop a more detailed model is more because of that, what you're describing. I don't, no one has an answer to that for you. And I think Alex, when he was here, wasn't sure it was worth looking at a solution. But what we need to do is mitigate, issues in the worst areas. And so that's why we need a model that, and I hope people can understand this. It's really being developed so that if we change something in one part of the system, we know what's happening in the other parts, because there is knock-on effects.
Councillor Elliott?
Yeah, thank you. I remember that flooding very well. And what I understood, correct me if I'm wrong, is that there was a broken Abateau. And the town fixed it. So therefore, the propensity to flood isn't the same as when it went right across Main Street. Right? Wrong?
Yeah, so we've made improvements since the event that I believe you're talking about. I don't want to promise that there won't be a large rain event though that's at high tide that backs water up. So it will, the future is unknown.
All right, are there any more questions? I just have a couple, for direction purposes, as the stormwater management is one of the areas that we're focusing on the capital investment. And we know that you're looking to have students for data collection and looking to focus on Main Street. And then specific projects for grants. Do we, as council, need to say that this is okay, or where do we go to give you feedback on this? Because that is, I guess there's, what, 5 of them that we're looking at? I just want to make sure that you're clear on what.
I think the ones that we've shown, we would consider more low-hanging fruit or more urgent issues that we are actively working on designing and bringing you costing and scopes of work for.
Okay.
So the next iteration of this, what we would be proposing is to give you a bit more of a fulsome picture on, we know you want to focus on stormwater, here's how we're proposing to do it, and here's what it's going to cost you.
Okay.
Yeah.
So are there any more questions? Is this your conclusion of the stormwater? Okay, I just want to make sure that there's no more questions before we move on. Oh, okay, we can move on. Thank you.
Okay, so I'm going to go into a section around streets and sidewalks and active transportation. Some of this you would have seen before. So we did show this graphic at the Housing Accelerator Fund open houses, really as a bit of a discussion piece, but also we know that when we're talking about things like plan reviews and changing the community in any way, everyone wants to talk about infrastructure. So I think this was well received. What this really does in a very simplified manner is just show where our current focus is at the staff level, and we're looking to bring this to council to sort of clarify where we are going to focus our energy and where we're going to try to line up projects. So the entirety of the scope that we're showing, I think realistically with all the other capital needs, this may be an 8 or 10 year, if we just focused on these sections of road and everything went really well, I think it would take us at least 6. That would be very optimistic, but I'm saying 8 to 10. Obviously there's other areas that we would look at. So this isn't the only pieces of road that we're looking at. But I do think we should point at there's not a ton of investment being proposed in the downtown proper, in the Front Street, downtown Main Street, which I think everyone would agree is kind of the economic engine of the town and probably deserves a bit of its own strategy around investment. I'm not going to talk about that today. I just want to show the obvious here that it's absent. So I'm going to go through.
Just gonna stop,
Yeah.
pause for a question.
Are we going to, we're not gonna talk about it today. Are we saying that it is on the list for future, or, because it seems odd to me that we go from one end to the other and then go, whoa, where everybody is, we just stop. Not where everybody is, but that's our, you're right, that's our main economic
Totally.
space. And even if we're not completely milling and paving it, are we resurfacing it in any way like we did 2 other streets, Grandview and another one? Like, are we looking at that at all? And Front Street is not in maybe the greatest shape either for condition, but so I totally get that this is a lot of work as well, 10 years, for all the red and green. Is that right?
Mhm.
So does that mean that our core space is 10 years out?
No, and this is why I put that comment there. I was hoping that it would develop into a discussion. I think we need to have a separate discussion about the downtown. I think we owe that to the business community.
Yeah.
And I think in my time here, there's been a ton of interest in, how are we going to invest strategically in this area? And I think we need to talk about it. Yeah.
Great.
Do you have any? No? Okay. Okay, go ahead.
So what I'm focused on today is just where we would like to go for this spring. So 2026, and then I'm going to talk a bit about the red areas, which aren't being proposed really to be touched other than design work in the coming year. But I really want to focus on getting some direction so all of these folks that are in the room can have clarity on where we're focusing our energy and time.
Did you want me to stop now and get that back or no?
I'm going to profile all of those and then we can maybe go at the end. So this is what we're recommending, but this is probably going to change a bit. And I mean, to the mayor's point, you know, there's more discussion that's needed on, certainly on some strategic areas like the downtown. But we have a lot of data. We know the condition of most assets. We are doing our best to also acknowledge what some of the political realities are, like Main Street. And when we put bollards on Main Street, such a big part of that was the condition of the surface. But there's a lot of factors. There's a lot of older infrastructure that's still fully functional. And we also have operations staff that work on our infrastructure every day, right? So we have also sort of real-time digging and looking at things that's happening. The underground assets don't deteriorate at a uniform rate. There isn't like a perfect formula for all of this. And replacement timing depends on performance and operating conditions. So sometimes we have the interesting issues of just one service in the street is really bad and the other ones are okay. So that's kind of a different problem than looking at everything is from 1948 in the street and we definitely want to replace everything. And then sometimes just the surface is bad and you can iterate on that. You know, there can be different combinations of that we're looking at for you. So as we gather more information, we deal with issues, we'll continue to refine the approach. So again, I just want to focus on next year, but here's some other factors that we would look at. Physical condition, we have video inspections, we have break history, we know the material, the construction era, the soil, environmental conditions where things are installed. I think this is a really big one, especially for conditions like Main Street. It takes a lot more vehicles on the surface than other streets. I think I would ask you to think about that with sidewalks as well. Some sidewalks take a lot more people walking on them and the level of service probably should be higher. But then there's also coordination opportunities. So bigger roadworks, there's development that's happening alongside certain areas that put different types of pressure on the assets. So I'm just going to show you East Main Street a little bit and some of the initial thinking that we've done. Again, this is really to confirm that this is an area that council wants to focus on. So this is really like the front door to the town. Certainly anyone coming, you know, moving westward is going to come in through exit 10 and, you know, welcome to Wolfville. Victoria to Maple Avenue actually has no curb, and we had people come into council, it seems like yesterday, but that was maybe a couple of years ago now, talking about how water was moving along this lower portion of East Main Street and how it was, because there are no curbs, it doesn't really have an area to be captured. So we'd be proposing to actually install curb on both sides of the street on a significant amount of East Main Street. It's approximately Victoria to Maple Avenue, which would really help with the mill and pave and being able to direct water. We can also do fixing of the structures, the catch basins, and the remainder of the street. So from Maple to the town boundary does have existing high back concrete curb. So we could do a mill and pave and you could refresh the entire corridor. I am saying, because we only have really preliminary numbers and we weren't 100% that this was going to be where the focus was, that far east end could be a decision point for council, whether you wanted to do that in another year, depending on how our costing comes back. So it's not as bad, but it's not great. So these are just some images. I think it's important to actually show what we're talking about here. So, you know, this is a section that there's the most obvious section with no curb. But this is another, the top right image is where someone kind of installed their own water divergence on their front lawn. And this is where there's existing curb up further to the east. But the surface isn't great, as you can see from the images. Can I just
Sorry, did you want to pause and get any feedback on that?
maybe do?
I
should
think it's
just
a,
go
I
through
think
the
it's a
whole-
big one, so I'd like
Yeah.
to have a conversation on that. Councillor Elliott?
Thank you. I remember that the former Garden House Bed and Breakfast on that section was having serious problems because they're lower than the road. And I don't know if curbs got put in or not, but I remember them coming to council. Maybe they did their own.
They did, yeah.
So it is a problem.
So on that side of the street, are we looking to widen the street at all, or is it literally just mill pave curb?
No, the existing width would mostly be maintained. I mean, there's an obvious place there. So a lot of that had existing asphalt curb, it's just gone. And so there were kind of curbs there. But yeah, we would be replacing almost in place where the existing width is.
Councillor Williams?
Yeah, my spies from Main Street tell me that in the past, the elevation of Main Street was quite a bit lower, and that one of the problems now is that Main Street has so much asphalt on it that water will spill off into the surrounding properties. So how much are you going to mill down to get back to what it once was?
I'm not sure we know exactly right now. I don't think it would be significantly lowered. Is that what you're referring to? Like, would we be bringing the street way down?
Yeah, but I guess if you're putting in a curb, then in effect,
I think it's trying to capture the water on the road,
Yeah.
hold it on the road, direct it to our infrastructure, but also giving the homeowners adjacent to it a better chance to manage on site now that they know that that's there.
yeah, so long as they put a berm on their driveways.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I guess that area is really bad too, because when we've had lots of rain coming down from Orchard Avenue with that ravine, all that water was coming. So as to your point, some of the houses on there have kind of built up. So I live in that area of town, so I talk to a lot of people, and that area does need something. So to me, if you're gonna do Main Street, I think that is one I'd like to see the curbs. I mean, if that's gonna help with any flooding, then that's a no-brainer for me. I'd like to see most of the Main Street mill and paved or paved and with the curbs on it. But I mean, that's another discussion for budget. But I guess if you're asking me, Victoria to Maple, you're looking to put the curbs in and then mill and pave that section. That's the first sort of one. I know the proposed is probably to go all the way to the end of town, but that area is flagged as one that needs work. Am I correct?
Exactly. Yeah.
And
The other thing I didn't say is we are highlighting West Main Street as a future, you know, we're saying here within 3 years, but I think there's a desire to also have West Main Street improved. There's large sections of West Main Street that don't have curb. There's sections of it, the surface is fine, and there's sections of it that aren't. But to Glenn's point at the beginning of the presentation, like we're hearing and getting the sense that council really wants us to focus on Main Street. So this is our proposal.
Mayor McKay?
Yeah, I agree. It doesn't matter where we live in any one of those other streets. There wouldn't be very many of us that didn't hit Main Street every single day, at least once. Probably multiple. And it is not, it might be, I don't know what our pavement index says, but it's probably almost one of our worst streets, which doesn't make a whole lot of sense. And from, I guess it maybe depends on the budget, but it seems counterintuitive to me to not go to Maple, like go right from one end to the other. Otherwise, it just looks like we forgot to do it. And it is the entrance to town, and we're gonna have a speed hump there for the active transport. Like, it all makes sense to me to go from one end to the other, make sure it's done well, put that speed hump in, make sure that's, people can walk and all that, the street gets done. And then I think the sidewalk along that same side is in probably just as bad, if not worse condition, and maybe it's because of the water erosion going over, that's because there's no, what's the word I'm looking for, curb. But I think, if we're doing one, we do both, and hopefully do next year, do the west end of it. And I would be hard pressed to think that anyone on any of the other streets, even though they need to be done, wouldn't love to see Main Street done.
Councillor Butler?
Prior to my exiting, my apologies that I have to leave in a minute. I would support this. I've walked that many times, and I think it would make a nice uniform look as you're coming into town, provide some safety and all the issues that we've talked about with the water. I think it would be nice to know the costs and the timelines. So I'm in support of this.
So I think you got on that. I do agree with Mayor McKay, the Victoria all the way to the end of town, especially because we have the bike lanes in there. I think it would be really nice as you enter town to have the bike lanes all cleaned up. That would all be cleaned up too. The catch basins, the curbs, everything. It goes into the stormwater management. It goes into the safety with our biking, all of that on the east end. And then I agree, the west end maybe for future, but it all has to be done. But that's my take on it. And it.
More
Am I-
than that.
Yeah, so am I getting the consensus that we're good with that? Okay, thank you.
So the other street project that was in the existing capital budget for at least a couple of years was replacement, full street rebuild of Earnscliffe Avenue. And so we're well into design. I think Glenn mentioned this. We're kind of basically completing that and moving to a tender package. So this is, just to step council through this a bit more, this is the Wolfville Children's Center. This is EKM, this is the professional center. And so it's a bit of a unique context in that we need to acquire and slightly widen this portion of road, which was historically, we're not sure, but a little bit more of an informal roadway perhaps. Their sidewalks are limited. There is a sidewalk on the west side now, so there's the inclusion of a sidewalk on the east, a drop off for the children's center, on-street parking, improvement to this east-west connector that is well used, crosswalk. There's stormwater management included in this, and there may be an opportunity to do a bit of work at Quiet Park when we have that level of equipment and mobilization on that site. And maybe it's not something significant, but when we get into the parks discussion, maybe we can just put a pin in that one. So from a project delivery perspective, Mark, our senior planner, has been working for months on this. With Hatch Engineering. So we have an engineer sort of assigned to this project who's doing a detailed design. And we've tasked them to have things ready early in the new year so we can put a tender package out. And really what we're looking for from council is the ability to do that, and a commitment that, we're doing that work in good faith and going to finish it. Perhaps ahead of the budget, but having that work out and tendered, I think will really help with pricing.
Does anybody have any comments on that? I don't have any issues. I mean, there's a daycare, there's a nursing home, there's the EKM. I mean, it's safety. I just have, actually do have one question. You said you're gonna have to build it out a little bit. So will you take land from the quiet park? Like, or it's on the other side? No.
The only section that we are discussing that is in the far south section. So if you can see my mouse, it's down by EKM. Yeah.
So I think we're good on that.
I have a few other projects that we're looking at that I just want to gauge some interest in. These are tentative, and I'm just putting some considerations here. I would be surprised if there's not interest in these. So everyone has experienced University Avenue. The surface is really bad. That's an image of it on the screen. The sidewalk is okay. I don't think it's something to be super proud of, but it's functional. There is, and we've had meetings with Mobicon and Marcel at Acadia about integrating some improvements, some AT improvements on University Avenue. So they were part of that. But to do that, we really would need at least partially to resurface this up to some point. And the desire from the university would be to potentially turn that parking that you can see there that's parallel into more of a pull-in parking, create more parking for them, narrow the roadway. That roadway is like an airport runway. So there's a lot of opportunity with an improved surface to do things there. And maybe I'll just go through a few of these. So what we're saying here is we're looking to get pricing on this to bring you the financial reality of it. I think it's obviously needed. It's just how it fits into the overall budget, whether it's this year or in a soon to be year. That's just an image of University Avenue. I'll go through a few of these. Victoria is similar. Victoria is obviously that key corridor between the Randall House and the rec center. It's really right at the gateway to the downtown as well. And as you can see from the image, it's not in good shape. The sidewalk there is also really needing improvement. But the underground is also old from Victoria and around the corner on King going toward Orchard. So we are doing a bit more of a look at this. This could be a candidate for surface and some stormwater upgrades, make this functional and give it another life until we're scheduling a rebuild here. And then this is this sort of investment readiness piece that we were talking about at the beginning around having projects ready for grant funding. And so Gasbro Avenue has 3 sections that we showed on that initial map. So starting all the way at Highway 101, and there's basically 3 separate sections as you go towards Main Street. I won't go back to the map. But we've actually done some preliminary work on those and even some costing on what some of those could be. We haven't looked at Pleasant to the 101 in much detail, but we really want to look at the entire corridor as a system. A lot of it is actually connected underground. And we're also doing work at the 4-way and whether some of that would overlap with this. So for all of these 4 projects that we're looking at, what I'm really requesting is that we would bring in a budget to do design work over the next year. So we had a series of projects. So when I'm sitting here next year, I could tell you that you have some options between shovel-ready projects and that we've been working with funders who may want to fund project A, B, or C. So the other one, fairly obvious, is Maple Avenue. We did put just a lift of asphalt on that maybe 5, 6, 7 years ago, something like that. And we've had a lot of activity on that street. We have a new subdivision being built out. It needs to be looked at from an underground perspective and a surface. It has no sidewalk. I know council's heard a lot about sidewalk and safe passage along that street. So that's another one we'd really like to look at. South Highland is Highway 101 to Pleasant Skyway. So we have significant projects being planned up there, commitment from the developer to partner with us on the sidewalk. But we also have a childcare center there that really is high needs for safe passage. But there's also aging infrastructure up in that section, so we just want to take a closer look at that and bring that to council. And then there's an area up adjacent to the highway. I'm calling it the South Grandview area, but we have some more acute water line issues up there that that we're looking at. So these are all the red areas on the map that I showed you at the beginning. And so we really want to do some design work so we can be more definitive about the scope, the scale of the budget ask, and what the rollout realities would be. Because some of these aren't, you're probably not doing all of Maple Avenue in 1 year. That would be maybe impossible. But some of these need to be broken up into multiple phases. I think maybe I'll just finish this section. I was just going to put a note in here that some of you who've been involved with council would have been part of putting the decorative lights in downtown. There is a holdover budget item of finishing decorative lights from Gaspereau to Willow. We're just proposing to pause this for now. We do have design work. I think there'll be opportunity for grant funding or other opportunities. This would be in the shovel-ready category, but it's also really significant cost. And I think that number is really low. That's what's in the budget now. So I just have a note on that for you.
Mayor McKay?
So can you go back to the green and red map again,
It might
please?
pause.
That's okay. Christmas is coming, that's right. Oh. So are we saying, okay, so you're saying green are the ones we're looking at, except for University was on one that was a maybe.
Victoria and University are both in green as repairs.
Okay. So you're saying those, that's why I wanted to go back. So it says 3-year street repair. So in the next 3 years, the proposed is to do those green ones. And then the red was to get really good estimates, see what needs to be done, do the investigation work so that they were shovel ready should grants come available or something else come available. And then we would do them, but they might, if there were grants, we may do them. And if there weren't, they would go to gear 4, say.
Yes.
Okay, I just wanted to be clear in my head what I was.
I mean, with the caveat too, if I can share that, if all of a sudden, 75, 90% funding was dropped in our lap for something, then we have the opportunity to pivot, to use Councillor Elliott's word, if that kind of opportunity comes up. But the main point is, in order to have that opportunity, we have to have this level of design work done.
Yeah, that's right. That's fine. I would say that Main Street for me is still the most important things, the streets and the sidewalks. Even though, we say Maple doesn't have a sidewalk, all of those other spaces are, I think, just the level of service needs to come up on those because those are the ones that service more of us. From my perspective.
Councillor Elliott?
Yeah, just to go back to the decorative lighting, question mark, totally fine with putting that on pause, like permanent pause.
I think agreed. The head shakes. Yes.
I think it's been there for 10 years, like a long time.
Probably costs a lot more than 225 now. I just had one question, and I think it's for the projects that are you're looking for grants in the shovel ready. And I mean, it's hard to actually say which one, but we do know that we have a daycare coming to Highland Avenue. And so just want to be cognizant that that's a provincial and that could happen quickly. And I would want to feel like there would be safety up there. I mean, I think all of us are always concerned about safety. I don't know how we would get a grant, and I know there's more development going up there, but I look at that one and I'm like, yeah, that one sticks out to me.
keep going. So this is still within streets. I'm just talking specifically about sidewalks. So what this map is showing is a differentiation between asphalt sidewalk and concrete sidewalk. And so it might be hard for you to see, but just in broad strokes, the red lines that you see are concrete and the black lines are asphalt. So there's a significant amount of deteriorating asphalt sidewalk throughout the town, similar to what we just replaced on Kent Avenue. And I think for us, it would be nice to have some broad directional piece here. So what we're suggesting is there's far more pedestrians walking on Main Street and in the downtown than basically anywhere. Yeah, you were really on point. And we're suggesting that as we work on this, we replace the asphalt with something in the magnitude, depending, at least 1.8 meters of concrete, and work from the core outward, because there's a lot of really bad sidewalk along Main Street. The reality is with budget pressures, we don't have a number that we're pitching to you here, but we will as we get into another iteration of this. So it's a question of how much we can afford, but plus how much can we accomplish in any given year with contractors, and what, you know, there's an upper limit here. Last year, Glenn mentioned this, but we had a $200,000 concrete budget. We're not sure this year what we would be bringing forward.
How much was Kent Avenue? Just because that's all concrete, right? Just so for us to get an idea, because 200 seems really low.
350, I think that ended up being.
250 for 500 meters.
Yeah.
So can you just flip back to the last
This one?
map? Yeah. So 22. So last year, just as a reminder, we did half a kilometer on Kent Avenue of new sidewalk, concrete sidewalk. And that was 1.5 meters, not 1.8. We ended up shrinking that a little bit to be able to meet the budget. So that's roughly $750,000 for a kilometer. We have 22.5 kilometers of asphalt sidewalk. So again, just to really put it in perspective, this is why we want this kind of broad-based policy direction from council, because this is going to take time.
Mm-hmm.
And take investment of resources in order to provide that level of, this is an increase in service level for sidewalks. So to provide that increase in service level, this will take time and resources.
Councillor Elliott?
Me again. On Saturday, there was several events down in the vicinity of the Festival Theatre. And I noticed when going to the market that there were sizable puddles right in the sidewalk in that area. I noticed Cadia students having to go around the puddles. So I don't know where that is on the priority list, but it's a pretty frequently walked area. So just push that in.
Madam Kidd?
Where was that? Sorry.
Festival Theatre.
Oh, Festival, sorry. Yeah, okay. I really feel that sidewalks are probably one of the most important things we can put in. If we look at just inclusivity, accessibility, the whole, like everything that we put into our strategic plan, we all said that's what resonated with us. So for me, sidewalks are what make our downtown accessible to all. Whether you're walking, wheeling, child, senior, doesn't matter, or anywhere in between. For me, they are one of the most important things. So I'm happy to trade off decorative lighting for safe passage on sidewalks. And if we have to make some other concessions, I would be willing to see what those are, because I think sidewalks are it. Yeah.
I have a question. So we did the 1.5 meter on Kent Avenue, and are we going to be doing the 1.5 meter like everywhere? So that would save the money from 1.8 to 1.5?
On Main Street, I think it's 1.8 is more warranted. in some of the north, south, more residential streets that don't have the higher traffic volume, I think 1.5 is fine. But downtown, it needs to be even wider. So we'd be pushing almost 3 meters in portions of the downtown, and
I also have one other question, since we're going through all the housing accelerator fund and we're looking at moving the core one up, I guess up the hill and to certain areas. And I look at Summer Street per se, would that need to have another sidewalk on the other side when it's in? Because it would be like a,
it really should, yeah.
Yeah.
Ideally, it
So
would
then it would
service
be-
commercial.
so those were things we'd have to take in consideration as we do our changes.
Mhm.
Councillor Williams?
Yeah, part of the problem with the pedestrian walkways on Main Street are the tree roots, which have caused the undulation of the footpath. Will you be cutting tree roots?
I think it depends. It depends on the tree and where it is. And I'm not sure I can comment on specific trees right now.
Okay, we won't get into trees right now then. Are there any more questions before we move on? No, good.
So for council, this is just a reminder, really. We have direction on this, but I'm just putting this in because it's a significant spend, both from our budget and the support we're getting from the provincial and federal government around active transportation implementation. So I won't go through this in great detail, but this is really the sort of objectives of what we're trying to achieve with the active transportation work. So more livable local streets, so significant investment in traffic calming in our neighborhoods, trying to get more people downtown safely with options, and also options to have fun around town, and trying to look at ways to grow without more traffic. As part of the AT piece, I just put this in because it's a bit of an overlap with some of the other projects that we're going to be talking about. We're putting in a 3-meter wide concrete corridor through the downtown as an active transportation route, but it opens up opportunities for recreating, parks, placemaking, and I'm sure all of you have kind of been dreaming as you go by the market now and say, oh, wow, we can do a bunch of stuff here. So this is, I think, an offshoot of having the support that we have and having the strong community of people that walk and bike. So this is just the policy piece of it, just the intention around having design parameters, speed parameters around all of our streets. I won't go through this again. And then these are just what the streets that we're looking to impact in 2026 are with this funding. And so I should say, because there's not a lot of sidewalk investment in this fund, so we're working on the budget now, and we anticipate that there's going to be contributions to either the project that we're showing on East Main Street or a contribution to another sidewalk project coming out of that budget spend, because it is a $3.3 million total spend.
If I can just add in on that, Chair, just before we move on to parks. So our Director of Finance, Dana Gibson, is online. Her mic is not working, so she texted me to contribute to that sidewalk conversation. But she just wanted council to know that the Canada Community Building Fund, formerly gas tax, sidewalks are eligible through that fund. So that is an avenue for funding that we can consider as we move forward looking at sidewalk investments.
We good on that section? So this is pretty brief, and really just to try to get some ideas and discussion going around our parks, the placemaking, and different amenities. Again, just 2026, we are suggesting that small incremental investments in spaces are recommended, And if larger projects are envisioned, some other substantial amenity or something like a new, more substantial playground, that we can start beginning the concept development and design work if it's required around some of those bigger investments, if there is, you know, political will from council around a particular type of park or amenity. So what we put in the report was just some ideas, really, some kind of low-hanging fruit that's been talked about in our office with council, through our parks planning that we've done, through the work that Rachel's doing and some of the engagement that's happened. I'm not sure that all of this could be achieved, so we're really looking, and maybe we don't have to get through all of this tonight. It might involve a bit more thinking, but just some direction on where council feels some of the higher needs are and where we would focus our energy in terms of lining projects up to be delivered next season.
Councillor Williams?
Internationally, sewage ponds are great places for birds. And one of the disappointments of Wolfville is that it doesn't have a platform that is publicly accessible close to the existing or beside the existing sewage ponds. And I feel there should be, because if you look at the online data collection of bird observations, eBird, you'll find that that site is visited most days. There are hundreds of observations from that site. And for a small amount of timber and some concrete, you could produce something that would be really useful for a number of people that go there throughout the year. So in winter, those ponds are largely ice-free, and they would make a great place because they're already on the trail, as it were, the new trail. They're easily accessible.
Just grab a
There are wastewater facilities being developed and built that have a walking trail around them with park benches, just for that very reason.
That would be even better.
Mayor McCain?
I never know what you're gonna say. Thanks for that. I had no idea that's where that was going. That was just- I'm like, oh, but I wouldn't have ever known that. No, awesome. I mean, I'm not sure I'm gonna hang out there, but great insight. I had no idea.
Yeah, municipalities are not keen to have you inside the fence, simply because accidents will happen.
No pun intended.
Yeah, well, this could be a good segue to the question I have about the Moby mat. Not in there, though. But thank you for bringing that up at Reservoir Park. But thank you for bringing that to all of our attention. I had no idea. I had to be clear that that's what you were talking about, and thank you for saying that that is something. Yeah, so that's interesting. I'm really happy that the Moby mat is considered. Is that already like purchased, or is that something we can get with grant money, or? Moby mat, the accessible, like it's for accessibility to get into the water. Am I correct?
Yeah, you're correct. That's the intent. It's not currently, we haven't identified a funding stream to purchase that, but that we wanted to make, swimming more approachable, more accessible to more people, as we've got a new accessible washroom facility there. So that was the thinking, that there's a ramp there now. Making sure that surface is stable with using a Moby mat could enable swimming or other water recreation.
Are there currently any ones like at Ilsford Lake or anywhere else that are used? I know some of the beaches on the South Shore have accessible entries, but
That's a good question. Yeah, I can think of the one at Risser's Beach I just saw most recently this summer. I think that Aylesford Lake has one, but I'll double check and make because that could be a good local example. Thank you.
Yeah,
Councillor
Risset's Beach and also Inverness.
Inverness, okay, thank you.
I'm still on Howard's idea.
I know, I think that's actually pretty cool. Are we going through these one by one, like, do you want, or
I
Do you want
think if there's
direction at
certain
this
ones
point?
that resonate with you or ones that you don't want to see, that would be helpful. I think we can develop another discussion just around the parks to show what the magnitude of some of this would be. I think we need to have some, from my perspective anyway, knowing what the kind of upper limit of investment could be could help narrow this list down for you.
As it stands right now, we've I think last year we put in kind of a $200,000 standing line for just general incremental parks improvements. So some subset of this would be taking up that $200,000 kind of standing line. And that's where Director Lake's coming from, saying, you know, if something particularly resonates or doesn't resonate, then we can continue to develop the concept to be able to move that forward.
Not sure if it was UNK or Councillor
go
Elliott.
ahead. Doesn't matter.
Okay, Councillor Elliott?
Okay, tree planting definitely resonates with me. Given that we seem to have a deficit there. I really question the tree planting that went down beside the road in front of University Hall. Just to Howard's point about tree roots and sidewalks, it seems to me that's just asking for trouble 50 years from now. But more trees for sure.
Mayor McKay?
Yeah, I guess I was kind of waiting to see what our parks is, yeah, with the parks panels, because I know Nick and Rachel and you all did some great engagement all summer long, and the turnouts were fantastic. So I'd really like to see what that report is coming back, and maybe that can inform some of the things that people want to see. I mean, I don't want to, I agree, I think the movie, that's pretty cool. I think I wasn't expecting a viewing deck at the sewage plant, but that's actually kind of neat. But I mean, there's other ones that I don't, some of the parks I wouldn't frequent, so I would want what the users of that park have said to be part of our decision making.
Sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to say, a lot of this is, we tried to be somewhat reflective of some of the commentary that's happened there, but maybe we need to have a kind of a separate discussion showing each space, showing what some of it could be, and that would maybe be more helpful.
Okay, I think we agree on that. Nope, I don't see any more questions. Is that it?
Yeah.
Okay. You look like that's it, that's all. But I
I'm
wasn't
just
sure.
thinking about, I just want to be honest, like some of the parks investments, I feel like we're kind of chasing them late in the season and trying to mobilize. And so part of the motivation from my perspective anyway, was just trying to get, if there was some really clear wins, as I said earlier, sometimes the small things are actually really difficult to do. And so, or we can package some of the trail development with some of the stuff that's happening in the AT. So a contractor could come in and do more things. But I think even if we were in December and January and having this discussion, that still gives us lots of time.
Mhm.
Yeah.
The only, I guess the one that I can think of is like, because we're doing the paving on the Harvest Moon Trail, is that how can we incorporate maybe some of that with what we're doing right now? I don't know if that's an easier one or that's not.
That's a question. Okay, so I feel like we've done a fair amount this year in parks, given, where we started. We did the West End, we did Reservoir washrooms. We're still working with the Naturalist Society up there, doing the Harvest Moon Trail. The Rec Hub, Old Burying Grounds being done. So I think, when I look at it, I'm like, I'm actually really impressed with the work we've got done this year. And they're really great projects. They're not just small projects, like the rec hub and the washrooms up at Reservoir are amazing projects that everyone is in love with. And the West End Park will be a well-loved park when it's done this year as well. So I guess for me, I was just sitting going, well, if we took a pause for a year just to see, because there's nothing wrong with open space, just being open space and letting people use it for what it is. To get a full, and you know, even if we bank it, that $200,000 and say, let's do something bigger and better the next year, just to get it. I don't want to spend money and do something just because we're going to chase a project. I don't know if that's the best way to approach it. So if it was 1 year of just keeping everything going and just the small incremental things that need to be done to keep it safe and good, I think I would be okay with that. I mean, unless there's anything really hard pressing that people see there that they would like to see.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I didn't speak. I do agree with that. I can just see if some of the projects, especially at Reservoir Park, would it be, you know, because we've opened that up, there's gonna be more people coming. We have all the shade, we have the washrooms. Would it be, you know, better to have a few landscape improvements to go along with that for safety reasons? Again, I'm always about safety. So, I mean, that's where I can see that, you know, we could, if you could sort of meld that into areas that, you know, you've already done the work, but how does it make it safe and a little bit more conducive for people enjoying that space? You know, you don't want a bunch of mud there and you want to be able to get in the water, et cetera. So that would be, if that's not a large cost, I could see that.
If I can,
Oh, see,
Chair, so I think it best just to summarize what I'm hearing so that we can provide Devin with some direction is based on this list and this discussion, we can go back and look at a series of those, you know, meaningful incremental investments in parks, whether it be Moby mat, trees, different things of that nature that are kind of the next logical step in some of those spaces. We'll receive a little bit more information back based on the work that Nick and Rachel are doing. That can continue to inform our overall approach. And then we can have more conversations as we go. But I think for what we're to try to land the plane on 2026 is we really are looking at a series of incremental investments, not significant investments in any particular part. Because again, to Devin's point, if we're going to look at it, more significant projects, those are projects that really need to be, the wheels need to be in motion now in order to do that, in order for us to have timely program delivery.
So I'm just going to look around to council. Sorry.
Like me, Devin has not mastered the art of being in two places at once yet. Yeah.
No, I have a bag of soccer balls in the back of my car that someone's picking up.
Let's pause for the soccer ball. Soccer's an important sport. So thank you for all that clarification. I will just go around to look at all the counselors to respond to what Glenn has said. I'm fine. I think that's a great approach. Mayor McKay shaking her head, Howard.
Yeah.
So you have enough CAO and
Yeah, the only other thing is I would just think about, and this, I don't think this is urgent, but for project planning and even for grant funding, if there is a bigger investment that council is sort of circling around in the parks realm, it would be good to start developing what that looks like, how much that's going to cost, and how or if we could do that.
so that would be for future or?
I think for future, I don't think we need to decide that tonight, but there's probably people talking to you about many hopes, dreams, and projects. So.
Councillor Elliott?
Well, I think you've already raised the bar of the waterfront. And that's definitely critical. I hope I live long enough to see the deck go out there. You know, there's lots that could be done, and that is a priority. So.
Mayor McKay? So
I agree. I think, there are some other things that still we haven't finished off, so that's great. But so can we say if we just say incremental for this year, I don't want to lose sight of not doing anything for parks in the future. So can we say, put a pin in it, and then when we get through the budget this year, like we come back in April and go, what do we want to get ready for the next year?
As a takeaway, what we can do is incorporate this discussion into our operations plan for next year. So in that way, we can kind of triage the time and resource needed to do the subject well.
All right. So we've ended that. And
The last two might be relatively quick, but we'll see. So this is really where our mechanic and our manager of operations work on our fleet. I'm a little bit more removed from this, to be completely honest. But what we've done is presented some new purchases, some replacement. So this is a combination of very specific tools that the crew uses. And some large equipment like the loader. And so the report talks about this budget being at a magnitude that it is because the loader was previously budgeted at 800,000. And we've been able to secure a price of 510,000. So when we're talking about a loader, we're talking about that yellow guy on the screen, just so everyone's aware. The other pieces that are kind of new to this that aren't just replacements or trucks, we are talking about piloting a robot lawnmower to try in a space or two to see how that goes. They're using that sort of technology at the Citadel in Halifax. And so we wouldn't mind seeing how that impacts operations, what the realities of actually using something like that are. And the other piece of equipment to highlight there is the street sweeper. It's the first item called a multi-hog, which would also have capability to suck out catch basins and do some of the vacuum type work that we do. I don't know, Dawson, if you want to say anything else about that stuff.
Yeah, the street sweeper, it's a smaller one, so I mean, it wouldn't have the ability to do, we'd be able to clean our catch basins and some manholes, but it wouldn't be at the industrial level like we do when we hire contractors to come in and sweep. But we would be able to maintain those bike lanes on a regular basis. And where it's small, we can weave in and out of the bollards if once they go back in and the road's paved. Everything else, a lot of the fleet pickup trucks, they were on a 10-year replacement cycle prior to me getting here. Just in the last few months, we've been, repairing them to the point where we're putting floor pans in the trucks. So a lot of them are kind of degrading at a accelerated rate, even though they don't get many kilometers on them in this 2.5 square miles. But yeah, some of the smaller things, there is the post pounder up there. Yeah, like a post pounder for putting in signs. I think that's about it.
I think that's fine.
Councillor Williams?
Yeah, the multi-hog, is that wider than or less than the width of the cycle lane on Main Street?
I think that's about the same width, Howard.
So would you be able to squeeze it between the curb and the bollards?
I don't think.
And that, yeah, I don't think, but you see those arms on the front, they
Yeah.
actually, they articulate in and out to be able to manipulate.
Right.
So they're not in a fixed position. They, you can,
So you
you can go around a turn and curve it this way.
Right.
Or tuck them in.
Okay. But you don't think you'd be able to do the main street in its entirety?
Oh, you can. We would be able to.
Right.
And it would be a matter of, because we can drive over those bollards. So when this thing is going really slow, when you're going really slow, it just kind of pushes them over and
Sure.
and it cleans.
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay.
When I ask these, you'll know they're not my questions. They're from Councillor Palmer, who stuck with us this evening. So I'll just ask them as they're written to me. Because I don't even know what this is. Loader spec is a size bigger than the existing loader. Why would we want a bigger one? Bigger's better?
I don't think it's spec'd much bigger than our existing loader. I actually, I'm not sure really why it's spec'd bigger. This was spec'd before, this was last year before
Okay.
I had come, but,
We can come back to you with that.
Okay,
Yeah.
sure. His next one is, do we dispose of a case loader and what size class increase? That's Greek to me. I don't even know what that means.
I think that's more related to the previous question. I think the main question is, do we dispose of the, sorry, turn my mic on. What is our process to dispose of the old loader would be more the question.
I guess the process would be, we would either post it for sale or send it to auction. Yeah.
And when we sell the fire truck, is the budget item in the budget, is that net of sale? It is not.
It is
There's a
not,
whole,
it's not net of sales, so we would have to, similar to loader or any other piece of equipment. We would get whatever value we can out of that, the disposed of piece of equipment.
I have only one other question. When we do snow plow sidewalks in the winter time, do I remember something from a discussion last year that our plow is not the best one for doing our sidewalks? And is that what the green one is? It's too wide. So is that what the green one is, to replace the old one? Or is that a new one?
That's a Parks tractor that also gets used in the winter time.
I don't know what these are.
So it's a multi-use tractor. It would get used year
Yes.
round.
So it's not a sidewalk.
It's not a sidewalk machine.
Okay, thank you.
All right, any more questions? No?
Okay, so this is, I think this is the last section, but we could surprise ourselves. There might be another one. So we're doing a full-on facilities assessment, looking at the rec center, public works building and yard, the library and surrounding area, town hall and fire hall. And as our CAO stated, we're not really making any big decisions before that. There are a couple of, I will call them smaller projects that have been talked about, certainly through our Housing Accelerator Fund work, but also just sort of end of life refurbishment needs, I'll call it, on the second item. So with the parking lot item, what I'm trying to show here is this is the Railtown parking lot that is the town property. And we own this old rail spur that connects out to the dike wall. And this was in the last plan review, 2019. We looked at this area for the same use. And so it's 6 years later. we haven't formulated a project or a real designed project to bring you cost realities of what an expanded parking area would look like and cost, I think most importantly. So what I'm proposing is there enough will to have us do the design work on this expanded parking lot within the next fiscal year to potentially have it built in 2027 if things looked positive. But I don't think we can make a really good informed decision without moving ahead with the budget and actual engineering and design work for this. I think the level of I won't call it criticism, but there was like hesitation and a lot of questioning around putting a parking lot there, period. I wouldn't feel comfortable proposing this project without it being professionally designed. It would be really high profile. And I think where we have this dike trail being built, this could really be the sort of gateway parking lot for, there will be a lot of people that will come to Wolfville to walk the dikes when it's formalized. So I think it's a great opportunity. You know, there's that yellow area that I show there. You could easily get 100 vehicles there. You could probably get more than 100 vehicles. The drawings that we've shown that certainly council has seen with the Housing Accelerator Fund work, we have connected it around to Elm. I would call that a phase 2 because we're not disturbing the agricultural land in the same way by just coming straight off of this parking lot. There would be some, but it's minimized with this approach, I think. So I'll just do both of them and then we can perhaps discuss. So this is an older building that we have in the Public Works yard. So this is our Public Works Community Development Building. We're simply wanting to refurbish this building so it's useful and has another life to it. We would put a scope together, pull that into the budget, and have some more storage and useful space because a few years ago, we put this large Quonset building here, partially to kind of replace this. I believe council would have been involved in discussions about this in the past. Yeah. So we're just looking to bring in a budget proposal to do something here. So I think that's all.
What about the raccoons?
We would be, yeah,
Yeah.
including,
The raccoons live
including
there.
raccoons.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Can I ask what it would be used for? Because the salt shed went to the salt went to the round white thing, whatever that's called, shed. And so this would just like be extra storage. I assume the Public Works, it's currently used. Oh, it's just in bad shape. I see.
We would want to use that. Right now, a lot of equipment is stored outside. Parks uses the lower section towards the south. Obviously, the door wouldn't need to be 30 feet high. So part of that scope would be bringing that down, maybe a mezzanine inside for extra storage, Christmas decorations, all these things. It's more or less just trying to save it before we lose it.
Any, Councillor Williams?
Is there another salt storage shed on Elm to the south of the Lions Club?
There used to be, yeah, a contractor there used to actually do a lot of work for the town, but
Right.
that site has been sold and is, I think, soon to be remediated.
Councillor Elliott?
Well, makes a lot of sense to keep the building if it's potentially useful into the future, so that's a no-brainer. I have some trouble with the parking lot, just like on principle, farmland has been so controversial in Kings County, and that is farmland. So I guess I could see like half of that scope, but I have to say it bothers me.
Well, it's, I'm actually fine with the, just to throw my 2 cents in, with the parking, for design of the parking lot. We haven't used that farmland for anything at all. I don't know for how long. I mean, I don't like to use farmland up either, but it's sitting there. And what is it? Well, how many percentage of Wolfville is agricultural?
30% of it.
30%, yeah. So that's just my opinion. It would obviously have to, the salt shed refurbish. We've been talking about that for a while, and if you feel like, that is something that's going to be necessary. We also, I think we put a few things off when we were going through the town hall library and all of that, and so that kind of got put on the wayside. So I'm fine with the salt shed refurbish.
I agree. I think the salt shed, I think if you need more space, certainly, and I think Deputy Mayor's right, we did put a few things on hold down there that we thought might revamp into a new space, so it's space that's needed. How long has it been since have we ever has anyone ever farmed that land?
People are farming it currently.
Like, so we're allowing others to, someone else to farm it?
Yeah,
What you're
there's
saying?
there's
What-
longstanding farming that's happening there, and Mark has been in discussion with that owner.
Yeah.
But we are, like, to be fair, this approach is trying to be very sensitive toward the farming. It's just, I don't think we can really make a proper decision on this without some design work and showing people what this would look like. And so we're not trying to pin you to for sure building it. But I do think to make an informed decision, we need to get further down the road, and that involves a budget.
So we own where I guess the black swooping lines are, right?
Yes.
So even though we don't own to the right of this, so could we purchase, and if it's really, and I agree, it is a sensitive topic, and so even some of it, what is to the right of, or in that green, yeah, where your mouse is, so all along there, yeah. Well, there's nothing, it's just green and dirt, because it just goes down into nothing. So instead of going out that way, could we not go parallel to what is there and minimize or is that what you're asking for? Is the design to design out in that direction? Or is the design to say we could go in a different direction? And if that is land that's not being used by someone else, could it be purchased for the sake of saving agricultural land? What are our options?
I mean, all of those things are possible. We also own I want to say 30 acre, don't hold me to that, but we have a significant piece of land that is within the Dykelands that is essentially fallow land now. It's not being used. It was used at one time by farmers out there. So I think there's some trade-offs here to be net positive in agricultural land, productive agricultural land as part of this. But I hear you on moving into that other area. I'm showing this because we own this land and we've looked into it and we've done title searches and different things because this is an older parcel. But as part of this process, I think we could certainly look in the area that you're talking about.
Yeah, I just wouldn't want to close on any options to say that we didn't look at it if we're going to be criticized for using agricultural land. I think it's best be prepared that that's coming our way. So let's figure out what other ways we can work and still provide parking for those people who are going to come, and we need more parking. So what are the other options? And I think the design for that would maybe tell us that, or look at something different.
I can scope something that includes broadly other options, like not areas potentially not right here. And I think because I'm really proposing to take 2026 and then bring you some actual concrete projects that you can invest in. So we could look at this and we could look at a couple other ideas.
With me, I'm not sure about everybody else.
Yeah, no, that's fine with me. I mean, I don't love taking agricultural land, but not all agricultural land is really good soil to be doing anything with, and we own it. So if we can minimize that, for sure, it is a good location. Do you have enough information? Can I go around to the other councillors that are here? Mayor McKay has already said what she feels, Councillor Elliott.
Well, I'd like to see the scoping include all of that area, not just where the yellow lines are. Does that make sense?
You're talking about the area to the right?
Yeah. Yeah, like along,
Is that the
Safe
part
Road or
is that the
something?
part that Mayor McKay was talking about?
Yeah, I understand.
yeah,
Okay.
Go ahead.
make it a wide search.
Yeah, I think we should probably bring you back some type of more, like a report on this, that we can show you this, some options, some decision. There's trade-offs with all of these areas with costs and availability. And what I'm really searching for is, does council really want to build some parking in the short term? And I think I've heard that. And so I would like to move that closer because we've talked a lot about it. But I think delivering it is going to take us some time. So I think I have enough. I can bring back options.
I think I was actually surprised at how much people thought there was no parking. I think, I don't feel that there's a parking problem for myself personally, because I don't mind parking in other places and walking period. So, but I was really genuinely surprised, and not just, certain demographics. It was everyone. And I did hear from business owners saying the same thing, that they were hearing that it's harder to get downtown and there is no parking. So people are bypassing, going up top and going across and going into Midas, which is not what we want. Otherwise, the downtown core becomes a ghost town.
Mhm.
And that is clearly not what we're aiming for. So I think we need to look at it.
I totally agree.
And we need to look at it when we don't have 292 under construction and we don't have the grocery store under construction, because that's blocking off a ton of parking.
And I mean, people are driving around to find a spot. So a lot of the traffic congestion is the same people doing the loop trying to find parking. So I'm the same as Mayor McKay. I will park my car and walk. And I think a lot of people would, so I'm in favor of parking. Howard? Sorry,
Yeah.
Councillor Williams?
Yes, my only concern is the people in Railtown, are they happy to have a lot more cars passing beneath them, as it were, on the south side of Railtown? Because we don't have access from Elm Avenue, I'm assuming.
I think in the short term, the access would be from Railtown. Yeah. And that would be a discussion we would want to have.
So do you have enough information on the, okay.
So I think we did this as we went. So
We
I
did.
think, I would be curious if this type of session is helpful.
I think it was very helpful. I think it was very well done. Thank you, staff. From my point of view, I think it was very helpful.
Agreed.
Everybody's shaking their head, so.
Great.
I just want to take a moment to put the shout out to staff, particularly Director Lake. We've been talking about how we plan for capital for some time and making some adjustments as we go to be more inclusive of staff who participate in this process, council to get you in at an earlier stage to be able to craft those priorities and whatnot. And at the senior leadership table, we've seen now multiple iterations of the presentation and the approach and whatnot. And so very much kudos to Devin and the entire team who contributes to this, and to all staff who have provided feedback into this as well to continue to refine. So it's, we have tried to take a bit of a different tack on this than we understood has been previously done. And thank you guys very much for participating and for your feedback. And yeah, kudos, Devin.
Thank you.
So I'm looking at CEO. Anything else? I don't
Think
see anything more on the agenda.
For one night.
So seeing no more items on the agenda, I will move to adjourn at 7:05.